The first time I seen him, just didn't take but a second to fall in love with him. What are you going to do? They're both your kids.
It really never did shock us or anything like that. It's each to his own. Our girls are totally different. They don't have all the body parts to be said.
My stomach hurts, it hurts right here, and I can't feel this. Like, I can't feel anything, but my stomach hurts right there, and Brittany's stomach hurts here, and she can't.
Abby and Brittany Hensel have never been out of the public eye, but for decades, they've kept their most private part private, the truth behind their life together in one body. Amid all the stares, the only person who knew all the limits, all the agreements, all the conflicts, was their father, Mike Hensel, and he has kept quiet. Until now, no press has picked up on the new statement. No media has had access, but the truth was revealed, not by loud words, but by his own sudden decision. This is the first time that the most carefully hidden things have come to light, from the person who knows the two daughters better than anyone. Abby and Brittany Hensel have always maintained a clear line between what the public sees and what they choose to keep to themselves. They don't hide anything to distract. They keep it back, in part because it's the only way to survive in a world that constantly scrutinizes their bodies as a topic of discussion. So when photos of Abby's wedding suddenly appeared on social media, many people were surprised not only by the event, but also by the fact that they hadn't known for 2 years. Abby got married in 2021, but no newspaper, no reporter knew. The world's most famous twins kept their biggest secret, at least for a while. Abby married Josh Bowling, a nurse and military veteran. They met at a community health program in Minnesota. Josh knew the girl he was seeing was unlike anyone else, and he accepted that from the start. But what the public doesn't understand is why Brittany, who shares the same body as Abby, is also a companion in the marriage, but not the wife. That's the truth that confuses many people. While many people theorize, interpret, or even attack, Mike, the father of the two, remains silent, not speaking up, not defending, not refuting. Not only Abby's wedding, but another previously overlooked piece of information has also slowly been revealed. Many sources have mentioned that Brittany was in a private relationship before, maybe even engaged in 2020. But until now, Brittany has maintained an attitude of refusing to confirm. Their selectiveness in speaking out or not speaking out has made it difficult for the media to report. No statements have been made, no denials, just faint traces on social media platforms, then disappearing. In Abby and Brittany's world, silence is sometimes the only way to survive the insensitive analysis of bodies and private lives. But for Mike, that silence is more unbearable than any noise. Mike wasn't just a bystander. He was a naysayer, not because he was prejudiced or harsh, but because he carried a fear that only parents can understand. He worried about his daughter, about both of them, about the emotional damage, the reputational damage, and the social consequences they might not have anticipated. When Abby said she wanted to get married, he said no. He made it clear to both of them if either of them wasn't comfortable with the decision. He said it not because he wanted to control, but because he didn't trust others to accept what he was still learning to accept. That insistence created distance. There was a time when Abby and Brittany stopped talking to their father for weeks. They didn't blame him, but they needed time for him to understand that they didn't need anyone's permission anymore. What Mike didn't know then was that the agreement between his two daughters had been built long ago, deep, with love and trust that could not be broken. Brittany might not have loved Josh, but she understood why Abby chose him. She didn't object. She just wanted to be heard and to have a voice in the life they lived together. When he realized that, he stopped protesting, but he still chose to remain silent. He did not share with anyone, did not tell his relatives, did not comment to the press. He did not want to be the center of attention. He just observed and he kept it to himself. Until recently, when he spoke out for the first time in many years. The reason he spoke out, according to his own words, was not to take credit or to protect anyone. It was because he believed that if the truth was not told correctly, it would be distorted. He said they did not hide anything. They just lived in a way that the world did not understand. The day Abby and Brittany were born, everything was an absolute emergency. Doctors initially weren't sure if they would survive more than 24 hours. They were a special case. 2 heads, 2 separate spines, but only one body. In the delivery room, specialists put the option of separating them on the table. If they did, their chances of survival were almost 0. If they stayed together, they might survive, but they would face a host of social, medical, and legal hurdles throughout their lives. Mike Hensel is not a doctor, but he understands the costs of every choice. As a father, he was asked to sign a consent form. He refused. We didn't have 2 children to keep one. He told the nurse, "If I had to choose, I wouldn't choose either." That decision would affect more than just the future of his 2 children. It would also commit him to a commitment he never imagined would last a lifetime, to accompany his 2 daughters through an unprecedented life. The twins not only survived, they thrived, but it was never easy. Abby controlled the right side of her body, Brittany the left. Every step was a product of perfect coordination. Mike was there from their first walking lessons, not because he was afraid they would stumble, but because he knew that if he wasn't there, they would think he didn't believe they could make it. The physical challenges are only part of it. The more difficult part is raising 2 separate people in one body. Mike and his wife, Patty, don't raise them as individuals. They have to make it so that Abby can say no to a food Brittany likes, or that Brittany can wear an outfit Abby doesn't like. Little details like that help them develop distinct personalities. I used to let Brittany choose her hair, and I used to let Abby choose her music, Mike says. Not because it's fair, but because everyone needs a piece of themselves in this life. Although Abby and Brittany began to attract attention at an early age, their parents always tried to keep them away from the media. Mike turned down invitations from major talk shows and even medical organizations that wanted to use the girls as research subjects. He wanted them to have a proper childhood, even if it was only within the confines of their family and small community. It was this protection that laid the foundation for their later calm and self-possessed personalities. There was always a quiet fear inside him, not about illness or physical development, but about the right to choose. As the 2 children grew older, began to have their own thoughts, desires, and directions, he began to wonder, would they ever want to separate? Would they ever think he was taking that opportunity away from them? Those thoughts were never voiced, but they kept Mike at a certain distance as they entered adulthood. The past is the foundation of everything that comes after. Mike thought the biggest difficulty was over when he refused surgery that year, but he didn't know that what was harder was accepting the maturity of his 2 daughters in the same body, but increasingly separate minds. 2 souls, 1 body. Abby and Brittany don't just coexist. They live as 2 separate people within a limited body structure. They have different interests, different reflexes, and different perspectives on many things. Abby loves math and science. Brittany leans toward literature and history. One is afraid of heights, the other is an adrenaline junkie. There is no blending. There is only coordination. From a young age, their parents allowed each of them to develop their own unique personalities. This was evident in the way they chose their clothes, decided on their menu, or adjusted their daily routine. No decision was forced. Every choice was discussed. This initiative helped them develop a clear sense of self, something that many older people still lack. Their bodies are a dual-minded system. Abby controls the right side, Brittany the left. When they drive, they share the throttle. brake, turn signals, and steering wheel. When they walk, each controls a leg. This coordination requires not only skill, but also absolute trust. Living with someone else 24 hours a day, sharing every breath, every movement, every rest, not everyone can handle it. They don't just handle it, they make it work. When they went to college, they majored in education, but each had their own goals. Abby wanted to teach math and science, Brittany literature and history. They didn't take the easy way out. They were determined to become elementary school teachers, not based on popularity, but on ability. They graduated from Bethel University in 2012, teaching classes together at an elementary school in Minnesota. Abby taught science, Brittany social studies. The students saw them as two independent teachers. The parents did too. There was no confusion, no pity, just respect and recognition. I always hoped that one day my children would be seen as two capable women, not two heads in one body. Mike once said, that wasn't a wish, but a standard that both his daughters had surpassed. It didn't happen by some miracle, but through a daily, consistent effort to maintain their individual identities in a body that didn't allow for separation. Nonetheless, they also had disagreements. Conflicts arose, not because of differences in life values, but because of collisions in living rhythm, personal choices, or work orientation. But because they could not be apart, they learned to make peace quickly, speak frankly, and not let tensions drag on. They did not impose, nor did they let outsiders interfere. Everything was decided internally, between the two of them in the same space. Since 2019, Abby and Brittany have kept a low profile. They live a private life, not sharing personal information on social media, not attending events, not giving interviews. This is a mutual decision, not to avoid, but to maintain control of what is private. Mike supports that. He used to be the one to shield them from public opinion. Now he understands keeping quiet is a way to protect yourself in a world of constant curiosity and scrutiny. Their maturity isn't about their age or their titles. It's about being able to maintain a strong, clear, and limited relationship. They know which boundaries should not be crossed, which feelings should be respected, and which agreements should be kept. It's not a skill everyone has, but Abby and Brittany had to learn it. And they did. When love is not divided in half, Abby met Josh Bowling at a local community health program. He was an ex-military nurse, calm and matter-of-fact. Abby took the initiative. Josh didn't back down. It started with after-work chats, then one-on-ones. Brittany didn't object. She understood how Abby felt, but that didn't make the situation any easier. Their bodies are more than biological structures. They are living spaces, private areas, emotional boundaries. When Abby starts to fall in love, Brittany has to deal with complex internal reactions. She doesn't discourage it, but being in a relationship where she's not the main character makes things ambiguous. There are no readily available boundaries to reference. Mike quickly noticed the change. He had thought that medical, educational, and social concerns were enough. But when love entered his daughter's life, he knew that the hardest part was just beginning. When he learned that Abby was serious about Josh, he kept his distance, not because he hated him, but because he wasn't ready to accept a relationship in which he didn't understand each person's role. He told his kids bluntly, "If you're not comfortable with it, it's best not to go any further." It wasn't a prohibition. It was a protectiveness from a father accustomed to thinking through the consequences. But Abby and Brittany were no longer girls who needed permission. They'd lived long enough to know what was right for them. They didn't act on impulse. There had been private conversations, agreements, and clear boundaries. Abby didn't hide anything from Brittany. Brittany didn't hold back her emotions. And Josh, the only outsider, showed rare patience. He didn't rush things, didn't push the situation into awkwardness. He gave them time, didn't ask for affirmation, didn't ask for sacrifice. The wedding took place in 2021 in private. No media, no announcements, no social media. Everything was solemn, but light. No one asked for explanations. No one questioned Brittany's role. Everyone understood that if they could go to the wedding together, the consensus was already built. When photos of the wedding surfaced on social media 2 years later, the reaction was overwhelming. Some were surprised, some mocked, some admired. But the most common was doubt. How did this kind of marriage work? What was her personal life like? How was she a mother? Questions like these were peppered across every platform. But Abby and Brittany didn't answer. They weren't obligated to explain. This marriage does not need to be declared as a declaration. Its existence is the clearest proof. Not everyone can live like them, but no one has the right to deny that they have chosen rationally and with dignity. The story is still being written. After Abby's wedding was made public, the public's biggest concern was no longer the wedding ceremony, but the future. The most prominent topic was having children. Abby had said in 2003 that she wanted to be a mother. Brittany had also expressed that. But now, everything was no longer just a childhood dream. Their anatomy allows for pregnancy. They share a common reproductive system, which is medically possible. But motherhood is more than just biology. It is a personal, psychological, and social decision. With two people living in one body, the experience of motherhood is not simply a personal project. It is a collective choice, one that does not fit into any established pattern. They have never said whether they will have children or not. But from the way they live, many people understand that they are ready to move on to the next stage. They do not seek outside approval. They do not need professional validation. They are in no rush, Mike says. But if they do something, it will be a complete, clear, and autonomous decision. What many people pay attention to is Brittany's feelings in this situation. If Abby is pregnant, Brittany will also experience all the physical sensations, but the legal role, the identity of the mother, the custody, will all belong to Abby. A normal social structure will not be enough to handle a situation like this, but for them, the most important structure is the trust between the two. Brittany didn't ask for a place in the mothering role. She didn't set boundaries. All she asked for was to have a say in every decision that came her way, and that was always respected. They didn't need to adjust their lives to be like someone else. They just needed enough space to continue being themselves. Josh, Abby's partner, doesn't put pressure on them. He doesn't demand. He doesn't push. He doesn't ask them to change their routine. He's the only outsider in the relationship, but he never does anything to upset the balance within. He lets decisions come from within the family, not from outside. Their lives now revolve around work, living, and building a family foundation. They go to work regularly, without asking for special treatment. They teach fully, in their own field, and maintain the same quality as any other teacher. Parents do not need to adapt. Students do not have any unusual questions. Life is stable, quiet, and unpretentious. Mike was no longer the decision-maker, but he was still the one who was consulted when things were important. That was enough for him. He didn't need control. He just needed to be trusted. And he understood that the most important thing he did was not to hinder his children from growing up in their own way. I used to think I had to understand everything to protect them, he says, but sometimes it's better to accept than understand. Mike no longer tries to explain every detail of Abby and Brittany's lives. He just knows that his kids are being themselves. If you find what they have done and are doing really valuable, please share this video so that more people know that there are things in life that do not need to be explained, just respected. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below. We always read and appreciate every sincere opinion from you.